put your hands together for the late morning program with your host, Namarasa.
Hey, Gopika.
Hey.
Welcome on the show.
This is weird. I don't think you've ever shaken my hand.
So welcome to the show. This is the late morning program with Namarasa, and this is episode 10 or 11, and I'm super excited to have Gopika on the show. Gopika Kanta, devi, dasi. She's my old friend. We grew up together in ISKCON of New Jersey.
Yeah.
She works very closely with adolescents in Sunday school, and you're also a teacher.
Yeah.
So I really am super interested in the topic of, bridging that gap, as you wrote in your article, which we'll connect with later. But first, tell us a bit about your upbringing. Like, how was it growing up as a devotee? How was it going to public school? Same as me.
Yeah.
We all went to public school. We didn't go to Guru. We're public schoolies.
Yeah, we are.
Not Guru coolies. And I also have her husband here behind the camera, Aksh. Hello, Aksh.
Hello.
Aksh also works very closely with the children along with Gopika, so he has a lot to share as well. So he can, chime in when he wants. But please tell us a little bit about yourself and like that.
Yeah. So.
And talk to the mic, into the mic, please.
Oh yeah. Sorry. So I grew up in New Jersey, obviously.
Yeah.
And the town that I grew up in was extremely white, non-diverse. I think it was just me and my brother and one other Indian kid in our school. So that was my experience at school. And, when I was younger, I actually was excited about bringing Krishna into school. Like, I had a picture of Krishna that I would keep on my desk and, say a little prayer before I took the spelling test. And, my parents would sometimes come in on Diwali and bring all the Gujarati snacks and explain the tradition. I would wear Indian clothes, and it was a point of pride for me in the earlier childhood years. But I also encountered a lot of negativity in public school, a lot of teasing for my name, for the types of food that I brought for lunch. Back then, vegetarianism wasn't a thing, veganism wasn't a thing, so I have this distinct memory of being in third grade, and it was around Thanksgiving time, and all the kids were like, you don't eat turkey on Thanksgiving? Like, how come you don't? Like, how is that even possible? So, what do you do on Thanksgiving? You just don't eat turkey? It was like the entire class ganging up on me, and I remember the teacher had to, come and rescue me and be like, oh, this is her beliefs, leave her alone.
Wow.
But it kind of snowballed to a point where I have this moment, I remember it exactly. In 6th grade, it was an indoor lunch, meaning we had to play in the cafeteria because it was raining outside. And something had just happened, and another kid had said something nasty to me, and I stood there and I said into my head, I was like, okay, no more Krishna at school. This is too hard.
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. So it was just kind of like, nope, I'm not going to bring him up anymore. I'm not going to talk about my culture anymore. I'm not going to talk about my religion anymore. School is just going to be school, and a temple is going to be temple, and because I can't take it anymore. I'm tired of it. So I'm just going to not bring attention to the fact that I have this whole different thing behind me that is a significant part of my identity. I'm just going to separate it.
Wow.
Yeah.
Very interesting. So then, so you were in 6th grade, and then you said no more Krishna.
Yeah.
And but how was your life you would go to school, Sunday school?
Yeah, I love temple. We did those dramas together.
Yes.
Right? Prahlad, Yeah. Memorize the verses, you know, help to run the festivals and build all of those exhibits that we did for, you know, all of the festivals, and participated in all of the temple activities and all of the youth programs that were happening at the time. We went through a lot of different youth, but I was totally in, and I liked it. And I don't think I necessarily disliked Krishna consciousness at any point. It was just a completely separate thing than school.
Right. And then, so going up to college and everything was still separate.
So that's when things started changing. Like in college, my freshman year, I went to Rutgers.
Right.
And Aksh and another one of his friends, Shama Kumari, but she was another devotee who had grown up in New Jersey at
Right.
Rutgers. They had started a local bhakti club. And so I was like, okay, this is cool. I'm just going to go to the first meeting. And I didn't even think anything of it until I was at that meeting. And Aksh started to lead Kirtan and gave me a pair of Gartals. And I was looking around and seeing all of these Western white folk around, and I'm like, wait, I'm going to tell other people that are not part of the temple that I'm a devotee? Like, I can't do this. So I was like, no. This is not going to happen. This is not how I've lived my life. Like, other people don't know that I'm a devotee. This is how I've survived.
Right.
So I just passed it on.
Wow.
And, that was a moment of me of beginning to really reflect on, do I want to choose this lifestyle for myself? Because
Right.
now, when you're in college, you're living in a dorm, and you don't have the backdrop of the morning arti that your parents do every day, and just the whole thing that you take for granted, the Krishna conscious background, going to temple every Sunday, that kind of gets taken away, and then you have to make a decision. Well, do you really want this for yourself? Because then you're going to have to pick up the bead bag for yourself, not just because there are other devotees around and everyone else is chanting.
Right. Yeah. So you studied education in college, in university?
I didn't, actually.
Oh, you didn't?
No, I studied biology and psychology.
Okay.
As a double major.
Okay.
And I wanted to be a teacher, but
Yes.
I went through that whole thing where I felt a little shaken with everybody telling me that I should be a doctor,
Right. You were valedictorian of your class, right?
Thanks for broadcasting.
Sorry. I think that's cool. I think that's amazing. But I mean, that what you just said kind of brings me to your article you wrote that was circulated on Dandavats and other news sources about the title was "Bridging the Gap," right?
Born in, not bought in.
Born and not bought in. Okay.
Yeah.
So I wrote a quote down which I really liked that could kind of maybe you can discuss. So that moment forced me to confront the chasm between my lives, the true internal problem of a double life. My two worlds collided, and I had no idea how to handle the crash. I may have been born into the movement, but as yet I had not confidently bought into it. Super fascinating, and I think a lot of people can relate to that because you're born in the movement, but you have to buy in to whatever the philosophy is, or some people don't. Some people don't buy in, and then they can stray away or go in another direction, which is also fine. But I think what you wrote at the end of the article, that we have it's so much harder to get someone new than to someone who's already been a devotee to get them going. But I agree with that to an extent, but also I think it's harder sometimes as well to.
Yeah.
Don't you think so? I mean, because you work with Sunday school people, adolescents right now.
Yeah, I do.
So tell me your experience about what you wrote in the article and like putting that into practice.
I mean, so first of all, I had no idea that the article was going to go on Dandavats. I didn't write it for Dandavats,
Really?
actually. Yeah.
Oh yeah, no, it does. I know you didn't write it, but I guess someone saw it and then they.
I wrote it on request of somebody else who was working on a little project for ISKCON Ministry of Education, and they send out like a little journal to their little small group of people, really unknown group, and it was just, hey, we're doing an edition on secondary ed. Can you please write and submit something? I need to fill up the journal. So we were like, okay. And then somebody texted me from Austin saying, oh, I really liked your article on Dandavats. And I was like, what are you talking about? I didn't write an article for Dandavats. I go on Dandavats and I see my face there and I'm like, this is strange.
For people who don't know, Dandavats is the Hare Krishna like news outlet, one of the main, and they won't post my podcast. Anyways, that's another topic. But
I had a feeling you were going to bring that up, especially because you posted one day before. Dandavats will post it, and then the next day it's like Gopika's article is posted, and I'm like, God, Namas hate me right now. So I just want to clear it up. I didn't intend to put it on Dandavats.
Yes, no, that's fine. That's fine. Yeah.
So that article was actually based off of our experience because what we realized was the experience of a second generation kid is so unique growing up. Their needs are so unique. I mean, they're not really part of one culture. They're part of two cultures.
Yeah,
So
totally.
bringing that together and how to do that and how to help them do that is a completely different type of education than standard, what's kind of seen as Sunday school in the past. So we've just been experimenting for the last 5 or 6 years with different methods, with different activities, with different discussions on how they respond and what they need, and also really involving them in a conversation of, what would they like to see to keep coming them to temple. I mean, our goal is how can we maintain connection, authentic connection, from the time a child starts school to the time a child goes into college? Can we maintain an authentic connection, not just an obligatory connection of, I go to the temple because my parents go to the temple, but I'm really just on my phone and I'm not into it, but whatever.
What has worked, do you think, so far? I mean, actually, you can chime in as well if you want as well.
Absolutely. So a few different things. Number one, showing relevance of Krishna conscious philosophy in their life, because oftentimes, when they go to the temple, most of our temples, I mean, I can speak for New Jersey because, I can't speak for all temples, but it's very Indian and it's from a different generation, the people who are in charge of a different generation. So it can come off to be kind of ritualistic. Like we go through the motions of doing arti and, saying the prayers and, but that ritual often doesn't look like on the outside that it has a lot of relevance in our daily life. Now, when you begin to unpack it and get into the core principles and values of our movement and our philosophy, there's so much relevance. But to kind of uncover that and unpack it. So, let's see.
You wrote some in the article about some of the activities that you did.
Yeah.
One I remember was the one about the candle and building something with Legos.
Yeah.
What was that one about?
Yeah, so that was on a Bhagavad Gita verse, the one that the mind is like a lamp flickering in the wind, something along those lines.
Yes.
I can't remember the exact translation. But we wanted students to grasp this idea of, in their lives, what kinds of things would help them with their mind. And how can they visualize that the mind is kind of crazy and flickers like the wind? So it was like, I was a little risky. But we are, go ahead, Aksh.
No, I was going to say that I think it's the windless place, right?
Oh, yes.
So it's like, how does it become windless? And so the idea was the Legos can help them, represent and visualize like what they need to build a windless place.
So we gave them a candle that they could see that the flame was flickering so much, and then we gave them a bag of Legos and we said, create a fort that will make a windless place for your candle.
Right.
And you can, you have 10 minutes and here are your materials and go. And so they were experimenting and doing all these things, and then we kind of like tested it. So like I took a folder and like I made winds for their life and we tested the effectiveness of their forts. But the real learning came afterwards when it was like, okay, well, how does this activity relate to your life? Like, if the mind is truly like that flickering lamp, like what does it take to actually create a windless place? And then from there they were able to come up with so many lessons, like, well, maybe practice, like if we had a chance to do this over again, we could have learned from our mistakes, or the fact that we were collaborating with other people, my idea wasn't good, but they improved upon it, or just different lessons like that kind of emerged from it. So it was very hands-on, it was very engaging, and it was something where they could practically make a connection from a very strong philosophical point of controlling the mind to their lives and what it looks like.
Right. Another one I remember is that you asked them, who are you? And they said, we are the spirit soul, we are not the body, that kind of memorization type thing. Yes. And then you said...
prove it.
Right. Tell us about that one. And then you had devotees come as scientists.
Oh, yeah.
Was that part of the same?
Yeah, it was.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's kind of another strategy that we use is calling them out on their game. And what I mean by that is, what I've observed is devotees that can gen kids really get good at just doing what they need to do to not have to work hard with regards to exploring the faith. Right. So they will learn the verses and they can parrot the philosophy beautifully. Right. That they get the claps, and if they give a presentation at a program, all the devotees are like, so wonderful. They know exactly what to say, but on the inside it's like they're not really owning it for themselves. Right. So we kind of catch them in their game.
That's awesome.
Which is why I was like, okay, fill in the blank. I'm not this body, I'm the unanimous soul. Raise your hand if you believe in this. Right? They all raise their hands. And then I go, prove it. And then they're like, that was the look. It was like dead silence. And then I was like, awesome. But wait a second. So you're telling me that you've been in Krishna consciousness for 12 years. That's over a decade. You all just told me that you believed in this, but you don't even have a reason as to why you believe in this? I was like, I assumed that you knew what you were talking about. I invited these businessmen and these scientists to come meet you because, you guys are like representing our temple and our philosophy, and then they like start getting scared. I mean, these are 6th graders. Right. With older kids, they'd probably be like, whatever. Or they might just play along anyway. And so then, I was like, well, you better come up with some reasons why you believe in this, because you're going to have to defend this to them. Right. And so then they start to get into groups and they start to explore, and they have difficulty. They do, because they've never actually thought about why they believe what they believe. They've just repeated it. They've never thought about why it makes sense to them. So, as a teacher or facilitator, you can help them, right? Give them ideas or examples. It's okay to kind of support them and help them. But then we had, local devotees kind of wear a lab coat or dress up in a suit and tie. And when they come into the door, you can see the kids' faces relax because they know them. They know them, but they're like also bought in at this point to the whole like simulation. So they're all like ready, and they like start fighting with them and debating. And it's practice for them as to, I can represent what I believe in, and it's okay if I don't do it perfectly. It's a safe space. I'm not going to be judged for it. So if they do come across a situation, at school where someone is asking them or questioning them on their beliefs, then maybe they won't be caught off guard for the first time. They've already kind of like tried to articulate it. Right. So that's kind of another strategy.
That's great. I always found it fascinating about like kids. I mean, our temple demographic is mostly Indian, so like people who came from India, their parents, like your kids that you teach, their parents are Indian from India. Yeah. So they are brought up here, so they look Indian, they have Indian parents and Indian culture, but they're actually very American because they grew up here. Absolutely. like we did. So we had to buy into the philosophy also. Mm-hmm. So it simultaneously scares me, but also I'm hopeful for the future because of what you guys are doing. It's like fantastic work. I really admire you guys for doing that. But it's also scary because you don't know, because constantly we were bombarded with, Western people and culture. Not that that's bad, but it's whatever your environment is. Most of the time is what you're going to be like, right? So you only get a few hours on a Sunday. Absolutely. So how do you deal with that? How do you deal with that? I know you must do extracurricular things as well, like with the kids' trips and things and whatnot. But tell us, like, how do you deal with that?
I mean, I don't think we found a solution. I mean, we talk about that a lot. And when we meet with the parents, we tell them up front, we only have your children for an hour a week. They go to school for 40 plus hours. Yeah. So I mean, I can make the most creative lessons in the world, and I can work so hard, but even that may not be enough because they're in another environment. So I think to your point, like, one of the areas of work is actually going to be with parents, Okay. And sometimes what happens with the Indian parents is because their generation, they take a lot of comfort in the ritual, right? Like just doing the ritual itself, it gives them that sense of connection and meaning. Yeah. It's different for the kids. And I've heard a lot of kids, they'll kind of complain or express frustration that if they challenge their parent on a ritual, like, well, why are we doing this, or why are we doing that, the parent doesn't have a satisfactory answer. Like the parent themselves haven't like dived into the meaning behind the philosophy or the ritual. Like, why do we do arti, or why should I believe this, or why is Bhagavatam the most supreme, ultimate authority? Like, the parents have that faith, so they kind of just accept the ritual in their culture, but because they haven't gone deeper, they struggle in explaining that to the kids, and that causes the problem to like exacerbate a little bit, because now the kids are like, okay, you're not giving me a good reason, so go to the temple if you want.
Have you lost any? Lost meaning, have you lost in touch, or have kids kind of not have decided that this is not their path?
I'm not sure 100%, because I think these journeys are very complex, and sometimes a child may float away and then come back.
Right.
And at the end of the day, like, something that I'm realizing in this position is their commitment to Krishna consciousness has nothing to do with me, really. It's their journey with Krishna.
Right.
I'm just an instrument or a servant on their path. So I can do something and it may support, or I can not do something and that child may still, commit to Krishna. So it's not like these methods here are the foolproof solution, right? To like kids committing to Krishna consciousness.
Yeah. It's everyone has their own unique path. So you were a committed member of ISKCON in the sense of you're initiated and you've taken those vows, and so how did you come to that?
Yeah.
Tell us how you came to that, because now you're trying to do that for others. So, but we want to hear your story, and after you, Aksh's story as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So, in college, rewinding back to that moment of like playing kartals and I didn't want to play, I started really, really like questioning whether I wanted to dedicate my life to this faith. Like, is it really going to bring me something? Like, it's just so hard to be a devotee and function in the world. Like, it just kind of felt like, would it be easier if I didn't have to worry about chanting my rounds? I didn't have to explain everything all the time. Like, But I was kind of grappling with those questions, and in my freshman year, we went to India as a family, and my parents' Guru Maharaj, Radha Govinda Maharaj, was giving a Bhagavatam Katha in a small village in Bihar, and thousands of people came. I mean, this huge pandal, and it was like filled with all these people. Right. And, Maharaj is sitting on this huge stage talking to all these people, and he, at one point, was speaking about, I think it was like Uddhav visits Vrindavan, and he's meeting all the Vrindavan residents and talking about Krishna. And so, at one point in the Katha, when Uddhav is speaking to Nanda Maharaj and Yashoda, Maharaj just breaks down, like sobs. Wow. Not just like one tear, like sobbing. And like, I'm sitting in this Gatha amidst like thousands of people, and I see on stage this grown sadhu with so many followers just like sobbing because he's like relaying this part of the Bhagavatam, and it hit me in that moment that whatever's on this path is so deep, because like what else could cause a man to sob tears in front of thousands of people? Like, there's got to be something so deep to be experienced. Like, I want to experience it, and I might not have everything else figured out, but I'm gonna follow this path. And so
from that moment,
that
was a very deep moment for you. Wow, that's really amazing.
And then from there, like, a crucial part of the journey was participating in the Bhakti Club and having to be a leader for the club. When you have to be the face of a philosophy, all of a sudden there's like that tension of, okay, I better figure out what I'm saying, otherwise I'm going to be like fake, and there's that discomfort. So I started really, with the help of devotees who were kind of coaching us at the time, starting those questions like, why do I practice bhakti? Like, let me ask myself that. Like, why am I in this? What do I believe in? What don't I understand? What doesn't agree with me? Like, let me wrestle with it and get my questions answered. And that was kind of the beginning of me committing, and
Did you have certain people in your life that you went to for when you had those doubts and questions?
Yeah, absolutely.
That's super important, I think, right?
Totally.
I mean, in some way, your kids, you could be that for your kids, right? Do they come to you with doubts and things like that?
Sometimes, but not all of them.
Right.
I mean, I think that what we've learned is you can't impose that. Because the more that you try to be that person for them, it's more like off-putting.
Yes, of course, yeah.
So I think, and in the beginning when I got into the service, if I'm honest, like I definitely had that desire. Like I want to be that person for the kids. Like everyone wants to be that person that they confide in, and
yes,
you know. But over the years, I've been trying to work on, you know, it's not effective, number one, and number two, it's not really serving them. It's just serving myself.
Right.
So sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. Sometimes they tell us about their life, and sometimes they don't. And I think that's kind of the tapasya of teaching teenagers is you may get some reward, you may get no reward. You know, their ability to reciprocate, you know, they're teenagers. It's totally unpredictable.
Right.
You know?
Aksh, tell us about your buying into the, not buying in, but how you, I keep using the term from the article, when you kind of committed to, like your wife did, yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, I was thinking, it was a different order, but kind of the same steps in a certain way. So, I first went, honestly, I was more on autopilot. Like,
yeah.
You know, I didn't consciously make a decision like her to split the two worlds, but it was just on autopilot. Like, school was school, and temple was temple, and you kind of just lived that way. You know, one big thing in my life was, you know, in high school was when the whole like YouTube thing started happening, and then I got, you know, flooded with all of this like Aindra Prabhu Kirtan stuff. So he's like a big Kirtanier in ISKCON's history, and so he impacted my life greatly. I mean, I would say he saved my life in high school.
Wow.
So I knew what I had like a purpose. I had like something that I was doing. But then that was again though separate totally from school or from my outside life. And then I had this one time where I had a friend who was again born here, Indian family, nice Gujarati family, nice Gujarati boys. You know, went home after school, and we had gone home with him to do a group project at his house. And there was a package at the front of the door, so he goes, picks it up, and he's like, "Guys, you guys go sit on the living room. I'll be right back." And of course, I was curious, so I followed him. Which is so creepy now that I think about it. But I followed him in his house, and basically he took that package, and he was kind of trained by his parents to offer everything. It was like a gift that he got, and he would offer it to the altar.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And so I was like, "Oh, that's really cool." So then, as I'm like kind of walking out, they had like a little temple room, like a closet almost. As I'm walking out, I see like a bookcase, and of course, right away, there's a book that looks familiar and catches my eye, and it happens to be the Krishna book.
Yeah.
So it's kind of that silver pack, and with and I see the BBT logo, and I go, "Oh my god!" Now it's like again, it's like that clash, two worlds. Like this guy has a BBT book, you know, he's a good friend, and I could say something.
Yeah.
I could be like, "I know this book, yo, like, where'd you get it?" or whatever. But that day I felt like a failure because I could not come out to him and to the group that like I, you know, hey, I couldn't admit anything, and I actually wanted to hide that part. And I remember that impacted me so much that when I went to college, there was kind of this almost like, I was so frustrated that I was like, there's no way I can do this anymore. Like, I'm not going to do this anymore. Like, I did it in high school, but like, not anymore. Like, I have to just be who I am.
Right.
And it might be that I might not be cool with certain people or whatever. I don't know what people will think, but we're going to take that risk. And it happened to line up with this opportunity to start the club and all that stuff. So that was kind of like the motivation almost to start the club, was like, I just want to be one person. I don't want to have to feel like I'm separate. And so that was the third part, which is like the club. And then ultimately, you know, some of the stuff, and particularly that Sacred Sounds event, which, you know, it was in a way like validating, because being like second gen and going through all this and kind of being like, you know, not knowing if like what you do is really valuable to the outside world, but when you see people outside of your faith seeing so much value in it.
Yeah.
What Sacred Sounds?
Well, specifically for me, some of the earlier ones, like 2009, 2010.
But I mean, what is it for the viewers?
What was it?
Yeah. It's something you guys put on, yeah.
Right. Yeah, sorry. So yeah, it's kind of like a big kirtan event.
An event, yes. Yeah. Okay.
And about 600-700 people at that time had come.
Wow.
Yeah.
And so 80-90%
College students
and Western crowd, in the sense like not culturally aware of what kirtan is.
Right.
So people experiencing it for the first time and just kind of being a part of creating that experience for them, but then also seeing how that impacted them.
Yeah.
At that time was kind of like, what was I so afraid of this whole time? Like, people love this.
Yeah.
So
I remember for Sacred Sounds, like I stood on a chair while everybody was dancing, and there's like hundreds of college devotees dancing, and like when you see this entire room of all these kids dancing and students dancing, then you're like, whoa, this is powerful stuff.
Yeah.
And it's hard to experience the power growing up, I think, as a second gen, because you've always just had it. It's always in the background of your life. There's never really been a time that you've been without the Maha Mantra.
Yeah.
So to see the power of it in action was definitely part of the transformative journey,
right.
I would say. Yeah.
Something I wanted to ask was, where were your parents when this kind of transition before and after was happening? Were they a part of it? Were they not a part of it at all? Were they letting you kind of do it on your own? Because I think the viewers who might be parents, or they can kind of learn from what you guys observed from that side, from looking at your parents and what they were doing.
Yeah. My parents were a little more hands-off with the internal stuff, but what they did really well was give me the space to do what I needed to do.
Right.
For example, in college, when I was really questioning and answering things, and at the time I didn't really feel as connected to our local temple, and I didn't feel satisfied like I was getting my answers there, I wanted to go to the Bhakti Center a lot for the Sunday classes there. At the time, there was a Sunday Bhagavatam class, and I really liked the speakers. And I was feeling like, okay, I'm getting something from this. And, part of my parents were, like, annoyed, like, why is she going all the way to New York? Like, you could tell they were annoyed. But they let me go. Like, they dropped me off to the train station, and they would pick me up if I were to go to the Bhakti Center. They kind of didn't say anything. And they happily let me, express confidentially to these other devotees. They didn't prohibit me from having these open-hearted relationship with other mentors in my life, because sometimes parents can be protective, but I think my parents just were trusting in that, and they kind of just let me have these relationships with the other devotees who were guiding me, and just gave me my space to kind of explore on my own.
I mean, again, I think the internal part was maybe harder for them to be attuned to as much. But my parents, my mom cooked like almost every week for Bhakti Club and all this other stuff. So they were very supportive of whatever we felt we needed to do. So in that sense, I'm grateful.
What do you think, like for parents who might be listening or who are new parents, or what tips can you give them to help do the best for their children in that way as when they get to adolescent? Or what do you even communicate to your parents of your children now, if you do?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, first of all, I'm not a parent, so I take that with a huge anything that I believe or feel could be totally wrong, because I feel like I haven't really stepped in their shoes completely, but from the outside, some suggestions might be, number one, to never dismiss a question regarding Krishna consciousness. And if you don't know the answer, it's okay to be honest and say, I really don't know, but let's find out together. That's a really good question. We should know why we're doing this, rather than no, just accept it and just follow along, never dismiss it. And then the second thing is to actually intentionally look for places to bring the outside Western world into the home and connect it to Krishna consciousness. So for example, like all of these current events that are happening, like, we don't have to shun them and not talk about it. I mean, our kids are experiencing them at school. They're discussing them in their classes at school.
Yes.
So we can discuss them in the home with the Krishna conscious lens and challenge our kids as to, well, what should a devotee believe about, this case or this election or this whatever, like how should devotees feel? And there isn't really right or wrong answers there, but I think conversations like that make the point to our children that it doesn't have to be two worlds. Like what you're hearing out there is very relevant to Krishna consciousness. And then I think the third thing that comes to mind is keeping pulse on the child's connection to Krishna and to the faith. Because sometimes what happens is our kids are really talented, the kids that we have in our movement, they're supremely amazing, supremely successful. And they're going to invest their time where they feel valued. They might even be overachievers in school and doing this, that, or the other. And like as parents, sometimes I see parents feeling really happy and proud, like my kid's doing so well at school, XYZ, ABC, and that's a really good thing. But also to moderate that and make sure there's a connection and help them balance their spiritual life. Like, are there spiritual components? And if not, having that open dialogue with the child of, okay, well, how are you feeling about Krishna consciousness or chanting your rounds? Like, what's going on? Like, not being afraid of having those open conversations, So I guess that's what comes to mind.
That's really fantastic.
I mean, the only thing I would add is, I think now looking back, there were certain things like I sat and was forced to memorize verses, and it's coming useful now, but also, maybe there were also more opportunities, I think, for me to form more personal connection with what I was trying to do and the meaning behind it. And this gets to that point of the article about meaning over memorizing, because
yes, I have it written right here.
It's like such a thing that we applaud kids when they say the verse in front of the
Gita Jayanti.
Yeah.
Dude, I love that. I love watching it now, seeing the kids squirm.
but in a way, I mean, there's a good part of it, but
of course.
The part is we're putting into their head that that's what you are being rewarded for. Even if someone leads a great kirtan, we go Hari Bol, Hari Bol. I mean, again, not that that's bad. I mean, that we should be encouraging, but we should also encourage. We should make it cool to, be deeper in Krishna consciousness, or to have a connection, or to know why you do what you do.
Yeah,
I think that part of it is still something we can work on more probably as a society.
Something that struck me, what you said about sometimes even the parents aren't completely convinced.
Yeah.
So that's worrying, because then that just, like you said, it's kind of just keeps the cycle going.
I mean, I wouldn't say necessarily completely convinced. I think parents are convinced.
Okay, but
I just don't think that, like, culturally, what I've found is sometimes, especially Indian parents, can't articulate why they believe what they believe.
The children.
They just know they believe in it.
Right.
They know it makes them feel connected, and they have those deeper feelings on the inside, but they can't articulate as to why this makes sense and why they should represent it, which is why sometimes, even when we try to share Krishna consciousness with others, sometimes it doesn't work out, because the articulation part and how you can really present the message, it comes from that very deep understanding of how our philosophy is relevant in today's day and age. So I don't think parents lack the faith. I think it's just the ability to articulate. And even like for parents to reflect on their own journeys, like, why did I choose Krishna consciousness? They know how they chose Krishna consciousness. They got a book, or they started going to the temple, or some devotee. But why? Like, what made them dedicate their life to this? A lot of them don't articulate or tell those stories.
Do you think it's because it's such a cultural difference between Indian and American? Because their kids are American, honestly, they're American. So it could be the reason. We'll come back to that, but also I wanted to also kind of talk to you about this event that you guys recently did.
Oh, right.
The career fair.
Yeah, college conference.
Yeah. I went to it. It was fantastic. So tell us the premise or the idea behind why you guys started that and what it is.
Yeah, so basically we started teaching Sunday school about 5-6 years ago. So we have this cohort of youth that we've been working with, and now this cohort they're starting college or juniors and seniors in high school. So really our journey has been supporting their needs over the last 5-6 years. Like, what do they need this year? What do they need this year? So this past year, a lot of them have been kind of talking about college and careers and expressing angst about what to do and just the confusion amongst it. And
right.
There really is so much pressure around making those decisions in this day and age. So we just thought, why not kind of leverage some of the talent that we have within the movement to come support these students in making the decision. This is an opportunity to help them bring together the two worlds, or show people that are bringing together the two worlds, rather than they go to their counselors or, this and that on the outside. But, Temple has nothing to do with this very personal, life-changing decision.
Yeah.
So we decided that we're going to hold a conference in the Temple. And we very intentionally chose the Temple as a place of a conference, a professional conference in ISKCON of New Jersey, Tawako Temple, because we wanted to send the message that ISKCON is not just a ritual religion. It can be something that supports your life in a very deep way.
Amazing.
And so based off of that spirit, we brought in speakers to kind of speak to how you can go about finding your Dharma and balancing the material and the spiritual, and some tips to practically go about doing that. And then we had a panelist of, people who are going about blending the material and spiritual in different ways, who are kind of further along in their career to kind of look back and give advice. And we also then had a networking session. So now we're at a point in our movement where there are a lot of second generation devotees who are very successful professionals, have gone through school and doing amazing things and are living their life happily as Krishna conscious devotees in the professional world. So why not use the connections that we have inside our ISKCON family to help these kids, rather than make them feel that they don't have anyone in the temple to help them and they have to go on the outside.
Yeah.
So we had a whole session on networking and helping them to understand how to network with other people and the Krishna conscious principles that could actually support their ability to authentically network. And then we let them meet all these devotee professionals, one of them being you, but...
I was really kind of... It was weird for me, kids coming up like, what do you do, like when you're not at the temple wearing a dhoti and playing mridanga? What else do you do in life? And I had to kind of explain it. It was kind of strange, but it was cool though, because I think it's powerful when they see other people, other devotees living regular lives and the outside professional lives and whatnot. It was
it's community building too,
yes.
You said, because on a Sunday feast, a high schooler is typically not going to come talk to you and say, Namarasa Prabhu, what's your job?
Yeah.
They're not going to do that. Yeah. But allowing them to have some real human conversation. I mean, even one of our friends was mentioning to me after 20-something years, she had no idea what my dad did. And for the first time, she found out what my dad did. Sometimes in devotee communities, we don't even know who each other is, on a deeper level. And I think our careers and professional lives are really important parts of who we are. They don't need to be divorced from our Krishna conscious life. So, and then the second part of that day was actually bringing in the parents, because we didn't want to separate the parents from this conversation. So the parents had sessions and workshops on how to support their kids, and the parents also had an opportunity to meet all the professionals in the room, so they could also see, who's doing what, and they can support their child in networking and making connections. So hopefully down the line, if kids are exploring, they have all these devotees that they can call up and say oh, can you help me out? Or what are some suggestions? Or what should I major in? Their family ties and support are just strengthened. So
how was your experience with the conference?
Yeah, it was great.
I mean, you were organizing as well, but just your experience.
Well, I won't go into the whole story of my life, but it was a personal inspiration for me, because I actually struggled a lot with deciding what I wanted to do.
Right.
And even then making a decision and then regret and then trying to change directions and all that. So I just felt like the kids these days needed that support, and if we could give it to them, you know, in this way, for me it was also bringing together two things that were, again, usually like kept separate or not acknowledged together. So I mean, I like to do that because I feel like then you really start to get like to the heart of like some of the issues. So I just give you like, I think one of the big things that came out of it, from what I've heard, is actually a lot of kids said they felt a lot of confidence that they got from being able to hear how they can network and how and got that practice almost.
Yes.
Now it seems kind of silly, like they could go somewhere else and do it too. Like they could get trained on whatever these things and how to give a handshake and all that kind of good stuff.
Yeah.
But I think what it was as a devotee kid, doing it with other devotees who are other professionals, and you feel understood.
Yeah.
You know, like you could do it outside, but it's not the same because there's other things going on inside. You know, like one of the questions that came up was, you know, what does it mean to be humble? You know, you gotta be humble, but then I'm like boasting about myself when I'm like shaking someone's hand. So how does that work? So those are the kinds of things that they felt like, okay, these people they understand me and they're able to give me some perspective. So that was, to me, I think, you know, a very nice, hopefully in some ways eye-opening for them, and I learned a lot even from just organizing and being part of it.
And then another thing that came out of it was a lot of the volunteers came up to us and are like, wow, these kids are so cool. And then, you know, me and Akshay are like, yeah, they really are. But, you know, sometimes the kids in our temples kind of become invisible or disregarded. And that was really nice for them to also share with some of the elder youth in the community. This is what I'm doing, and yeah, I do stuff in my life, and I'm cool too. I'm not just like kind of like this little scrub walking around temple, because I think that happens naturally. Like the older you get, you kind of like forget about the younger ones. So I think it was a win-win-win-win for all parties. It was a lot of, somehow Krishna made it work. It was a big experiment again. Really, our service the last 5-6 years have just been like really big experimenting.
Nice. I think it's really valuable what you guys are doing. Do you have any kind of scope or anything like of moving this out to the rest of ISKCON North America? Because I when I posted that link of the ISKCON news article about that conference, like tons of people were writing like, we should do this in our temple, So is there any kind of idea of making maybe a packet or something so we can shoot it out to different temples and say, your Sunday school should do this as well, and here's how you do it, and here's what you should look out for, and things like that? Do you guys have any plan to do that? And if you don't have to say
Good question.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
It is.
Why?
So yeah, I mean, obviously after the conference and the article, we've also been kind of getting reached out to, like, can you help us, or can you send us resources? And so I think we've started to kind of look at that, like what would that look like?
Yeah.
Because a lot of our materials right now are kind of in like a Gopika note form, like kind of like my own notes and my own scratch of like planning lessons and stuff.
Yeah.
So that's kind of one element. I think the other element though is, you know, when it comes to teaching and facilitating, sometimes there's this idea that, okay, just give me the resources and what I need, and I can recreate it. And the thing is, the art of teaching and facilitating is not that you just follow the script.
I see, yeah.
You know, it's a very human interaction, which requires practice and discussion and training. So I think there's a part of me that's also a little resistant to just passing out resources, because I don't think it'll necessarily be effective that way, you know?
I see.
Like just following a script. And even with regards to the college conference, there was talk of like, yeah, if we do it in other temples, we should do it. And for us, you know, that college conference was the fruit of the last 6 years of our work. And getting to know this community inside and out, getting to know all of our kids inside and out, and the parents, and really understanding their needs. Like Akshay and I, every Sunday when we go home, that car ride is just a big debriefing on our experience at Temple and what lessons we've learned today, and what did we realize about the kids and growing up in Krishna consciousness, and the parents, and every moment leads to lessons, and those lessons have built over the last 6 years, which kind of allowed us to sculpt to this conference. I don't think we would have been able to create this 6 years ago. I don't think we would have understood our community. That being said, I'm not sure if other communities are like our New Jersey community, with regards to how the kids are and the kids' experience in school, and do they, the demographics and the parents, and, it may or may not be. So I would hope that these ideas can be taken elsewhere, but I think the question of how is still a little fuzzy for me.
You want to add to that?
No, I mean, it's every place is different, right? And that's what makes it tough. Like, it's easy to have something that's kind of just on paper, and I think that's, frankly, I mean, this article was kind of, we just took it as an opportunity to put some thoughts on paper. So it was nice to be able to do that, but how do you help support others to be able to execute that is going to be an interesting challenge going forward. So it's something we're working on, and we're trying to do what we can right now, taking steps and trying to get feedback as we go. But I think it's a tough thing, because obviously there's the material, and then there's the person component as well. So I'd like to figure out.
A lot of it is going to be about shifting mindset too, as opposed to resources, because there is this large mindset that and it's not bad necessarily that we want our children to learn all of Srila Prabhupada's books and be really conversant in Srila Prabhupada's books, and that's a really wonderful sentiment, and they should be. I think I personally just, if a child is going to public school, I feel like there's a greater goal that's more important than them learning Srila Prabhupada's book, and that is to allow them to create connection and meaning. If that is sustained, then they will learn Srila Prabhupada's
Of course,
books.
yeah. Without that, there's not.
Right? But if they learn all of Srila Prabhupada's books, but they don't have a connection, then they will know all the philosophy, but they'll drift anyway. Or they'll just choose to visit the temple and, go through the motion, but really their heart's not really in it.
Yeah. I think that, it's so needed what you guys are doing, because we cater for, the devotees that, are converts. We cater for like the really young children, but the adolescents who are kind of going through the transition that we've been discussing this whole time is like, I don't know many people doing it. Maybe I don't know them because I don't, I haven't gone to every temple, but I think it's quite unique, because mostly I see adolescents, they have a time where they do drift away and then maybe come back, but sometimes not.
Yeah.
And to help kind of keep them and make them buy it in for themselves, instead of try to force it down their necks or down their throats or something, but actually make an environment for them so they can decide for themselves what they want to do is so amazingly needed, and what an amazing service. One thing I wanted to ask you was, in the years that you've been doing this, have there been any challenges where you were just like, I don't want to do this anymore? Because I know in every service we do all kinds of services with our other devotees, and I think every person can say that there's always been a time where it's been some kind of experience with a devotee, or some kind of experience with internally or whatever, that it's just like, I don't want to do this anymore because it's not inspiring. I'm not getting anywhere. I don't like this person. This person doesn't like me, whatever it may be. But tell us about that, because I see from your body language that you do have some experience of that.
I mean, I think if you talk to any teacher, you will hear from them that there are days where you drive home and you question yourself, why did I choose this profession?
Really?
Yeah, absolutely. There are also days where you're like, I would never do anything else with my life. But I think that just that's the heart of a teacher, when you're really, and it's a battlefield, it really is.
Right.
But I think specifically with regards to the service, I mean, It has been a journey teaching Sunday school the last 5 years. And in the beginning, I mean, there were times where I taught in the hallway and,
Oh, right.
the kids were being shifting around. So that was kind of one level of discouragement of like, not being taken seriously or feeling important enough, and kind of fought through that, and that was great, and we now have like dedicated spaces for our kids. But I think even over the years, and this has been a personal battle with my ego as well, but just feeling valued in this service, because teaching Sunday school is often seen as not innovative, like not cool. Like, so, when we share with our peers that we're teaching Sunday school, it was kind of like, yeah, cool, yeah, you're teaching Sunday school, right? Yeah, oh, good little Gopika, like going to temple, like teaching the kids, That was kind of the attitude. And for me and for both of us at times, like we're really trying to do something innovative here. We're trying to push the boundaries. But, when you're upstairs in Tawako Temple on the 3rd floor in the corner of the attic and you're like doing this stuff and everyone's just like, oh yeah, you just teach Sunday school, whatever. It can feel disheartening, but that's where the commitment factor really saves you. And I have a lot to be grateful for the kids, because they keep us coming back every Sunday to temple despite life. I mean, there are many Sundays where it's like I wouldn't have gone had I not had this service. And because of them, every Sunday when I take darshan before we leave, it's like, okay, whatever I did today, Krishna, at least I can offer it to you and you can see it. So I think that's been the challenge over the years is, we did this really progressive thing in college doing Bhakti Club and Sacred Sounds, and it was kind of like a buzz. And then you go to teaching Sunday school, and then you're kind of seen as like you don't have anything to offer ISKCON, because you're just babysitting and taking care of the kids, and that's how nice. Oh, what a nice service you're doing. But that feeling of like, no, I'm doing something creative and innovative.
Yes.
And so it was funny, like after we ran the conference, like so many people came up to us and they were like, oh, Gopika, like, wow, so amazing, so progressive, so innovative. And I mean, I'm really grateful for the support and encouragement, but for both of us, we were kind of like, yeah, I mean, this is not really outside of what we've been doing in terms of our internal thought process for the last 6 years. So I think that being seen factor has been a challenge, but I'm also grateful because it's forced us to deal with our egos, at least for me, like my ego of feeling seen and important and valued, that at the end of the day, like doing my service has to be more than how I'm seen for it. So, Krishna has his way of purifying you, and I'm grateful for the kids for that commitment factor, because, they make you stick it through. Yeah. It kept me consistent coming to temple, and so.
I think I'm really guilty of thinking about, Sunday school is so nice. You guys are doing that. But from being a parent and a new parent and just kind of looking more deeper into what children's experiences are, I've just got this newfound appreciation for you guys. But Aksh, tell me from what my question was, if you have anything to add, challenges or...
No, I think she said it perfectly.
She said it perfectly. Yeah. Okay, cool. Yeah, definitely. Oh, wow. This is probably one of my favorite podcasts. This is really? Yeah. Aww. Really. This is super fascinating. I'm so fascinated by this whole subject because it's just we're not thinking about it enough, that how we're going to pass this movement forward to our next generation. It's kind of, okay, let's just get new people, and what about the people we have? Let's try to boil the milk. Prabhupada said we should now boil the milk, and I think what's our time? On the bottom there?
58.
58, okay. Do you have any final thoughts you'd like to share? Either from the article or just anything. What I wanted before that, I wanted to ask you about your job right now. Yeah. So you teach public school.
Yeah, I do.
Tell us about that.
So I teach in a town called South Orange, Maplewood, in New Jersey, and I used to teach middle school science, but now currently I'm teaching high school psychology. So I teach AP psychology.
I didn't know that.
Really?
Yeah, I didn't know. I thought you were still teaching. I thought you were still teaching science. Okay, wow, AP psychology.
Yeah.
Nice.
It's really fun. It's so great because you can really have some great conversations with the students, and I've learned a lot about discussion and, you know, carrying some of those techniques over to Sunday school and youth discussions. But yeah, that's what I'm doing right now, and I love it because, you know, there's some spiritual overlap with psychology.
Of course.
So for me, there's like more of those worlds coming together. There's a whole unit on consciousness, and there's meditation involved in there. So it makes me feel like, okay, I can kind of, and like motivation in life, like why do we do what we do?
Yes.
You can kind of get more.
I remember a few months ago you had Aksh, you come in, play mridanga for something. And you taught something about...
A few years ago.
Yeah, well, what was that anything...
That was in middle school.
That was in middle school,
yeah.
Okay.
So what happened there was my coworker was teaching social studies. And in 8th grade, there is a Hinduism unit.
Ah, I see, okay.
So...
Now you know what they teach you in Hinduism.
Indiana Jones or something like that.
Yeah, the obligatory, you know, polytheistic stuff.
Yes.
But my coworker is really cool, and you know, I got a relationship with her eventually to actually like come out and tell her I was a Hare Krishna, and felt comfortable enough telling her. And so she wanted us to come in and share about our perspective and our, you know, our religion or our practice of Hinduism, what it looked like for us. So yeah, we went in and we talked about bhakti yoga and how it was the yoga of devotion and love towards one God and building a relationship. And so you do that through offering food. And we talked about Lord Chaitanya and how he was like a revolutionary and fighting all political caste systems of the time. And then Srila Prabhupada. And it was such a wonderful experience for me to be able to be in public school as a teacher and talk about. I didn't call myself a Hare Krishna. I'm still a little frightful of that, given all of the stigma.
Of course.
But to kind of really be open about my faith and, you know.
Wow. And
the kids really were responsive to it. And even my coworkers, to the point where sometimes they'll still reference like bhakti yoga in conversation, and that they mentioned it to their friends, like, oh, you should try this bhakti yoga thing, my coworker. So
wow. Amazing how you can affect people in different ways. Aksh, what do you do?
What do I do?
Yeah.
Work-wise?
Yes.
I work at a marketing firm in New York City.
Yes.
And I work with different clients, but mostly like healthcare, pharmaceutical clients, because that's where I did my training as a pharmacist.
You're a pharmacist by education?
Yeah.
Right. Oh, wonderful. Cool.
Yeah.
All right. Awesome. So I guess we can, I want to do like a quick fire round.
Okay.
Which is at the end of every episode, I kind of ask a certain question. Your top 3 pet peeves.
Oh my God, I'm not prepared for this.
See, you can't be prepared for everything.
Oh, no.
Maybe your top 1. I'll make it easier.
What's my top pet peeve? You should probably ask Aksh.
You can think about it. Aksh?
Dirty dishes.
Dirty dishes, okay.
Dirty dishes, or I hate when people like say they'll do something and then they like don't.
Yes.
Like that bothers me always.
Right.
So.
Name something that people may not know about you. I
am a Bharatanatyam dancer. I used to be, not anymore. And
nice.
I was a flutist in high school.
That's right. I remember that.
Made all state. So.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
I'll pass.
You'll pass? Okay. Okay, last question. If you were on a deserted island and you could only bring 3 things.
Jump a bag.
Yes. Just the bag.
Well, with beads, obviously. Does that count as 3? Like,
no,
jump a bag, beads, counter. Yeah, my beads, water, and my phone so I could call someone so I could be rescued.
Very nice.
You know.
Mridanga.
So you can play on the island by yourself.
That actually is probably would seem very nice for him.
Probably one of those beacon thingies so that you can call for help.
Yeah.
And actually, you know what? I don't need anything else because I would love to stay there by myself.
I was just gonna say.
You guys been married for how long now?
3 and a bit.
Yeah.
3 and a bit. Nice. How's that been? You first.
Oh, it's been great.
This was part of the interview.
Yeah. It's been really nice. I mean, obviously, ups and downs and
of course
learning about each other, but I think that for us, for me, I'll speak for myself, but one of my favorite parts of being married is actually being able to do this service together.
Right.
Like that car ride home on Sundays has got to be like the favorite part of my week.
Really?
I think it's the inspiration and knowing that you're sharing this experiment with someone. It keeps, Krishna consciousness exciting and life meaningful, because if life is just about like the cleaning the house and the management of the, operations of the daily living, work, laundry, et cetera, it can get like, boring and stale.
Yes.
So that our Sundays is like it's fun.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Well, no one person's good at everything, so certainly I'm not. And what's been really nice is that I feel like in some ways we're so opposite, but that helps each other grow and kind of support each other in that way. So that's been really nice.
Awesome. So, okay. Thank you guys so much for coming. I just wanted to say I really admire you guys so much, even though we've all grown up together. Yeah. I kind of, I don't know, in the past year or so, I just gotten more interested in what people do and what their lives are about, as opposed to my own life, and just kind of being more self-centered. That's kind of what this podcast is about, is I really like diving into what people are about, my close friends, and also people that I know are into interesting things. So just know that I support you and I admire you guys a lot, and I'm really fascinated by you, and I hope that the ISKCON world can benefit from what you have to share. And also something I do is, if anyone wants to get in contact with you guys, how can they do the email?
Yeah. Oh, so should I say it?
Yes.
My email is gopikasharma108@gmail.com.
Gopikasharma108 at gmail, and
Yes, now we can do
Yeah.
Awesome. So thank you so much for coming. Really appreciate it. And
thanks for having us. This is fun.
Yes, it's super fun, wasn't it?
Yeah.
It wasn't that.
Well, it's pretty scary, but
with
once
the lights and all.
That,
Yes. Okay. Awesome. Thank you guys. Take care. Haribol. Thanks, viewers.
Haribol.
Haribol.